X105, the country leader. That's the new one from Easton Corbin, and I guess you could call this the Jim Collins Hour thus far. Yeah, Baby Be My Love song. Also heard John Michael Montgomery, Love Working on You, Kenny Chesney, Everybody Wants to Go to Heaven, Jason Aldean, Big Green Tractor, George, It Just Comes Natural, Kenny Chesney, The Good Stuff, and Thompson Square, Are You Gonna Kiss Me or Not? My gosh, Jim Collins. That's a pretty good little lineup right there.
Have you been playing all those songs this morning?
Yeah, we played them all back to back this morning.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Doesn't that mean more money in your pocket or something? Is that how that works?
I probably made a good 25 cents or so there. That's awesome.
That's outstanding. Jim Collins.
I'll take it.
Jim Collins of Nacogdoches joining us this morning. Before we start talking about the new song that Easton Corbin did such a great job of recording, let's kind of get personal here. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm just glad to still be here working, and I'm glad people still will listen to my songs. You know, it's been great.
Very, very good. I know you still keep busy doing the songwriting thing, and obviously you're from Nacogdoches. And so with that being said, you've been in Nashville now for quite some time. So whenever somebody from Nashville area comes up to you and maybe strikes up a conversation with you and says, where are you from? And you tell them, well, I'm from Nacogdoches, Texas, and they kind of give you that raised eyebrow. What do you tell somebody about Nacogdoches that has no idea about Nacogdoches?
I just tell them it's a great town, and the people. It's really the people. I mean, I was just recently there I went to a high school reunion. I'm not going to tell you what year it was, but I went to a high school reunion, and it just brought back so many great memories. I mean, it's funny, it changed, but I still knew my way around. It's just it's a special place to me, you know.
How did you get involved in songwriting? Because there's not really – I'm not sure what the venues were that were here back in the 80s and early 90s. That kind of
80s and 90s. I mean, most of the stuff I did back then was just cover band kind of things. But truthfully, I've always written songs, but I didn't really get serious about it until I moved to Nashville. I had a band that was playing around Texas for 10 or so years, and we were really doing great. But I did a show with the group Shenandoah, if you remember Shenandoah, and I decided to do a few of my songs in that show. And after the show, I got a note asking if I'd come up and talk to them on the bus. I didn't know what it was about. I thought maybe I'd broke somebody's guitar or something. And anyway, I go up there, and they asked me whose songs those were, and I said they were mine. And they said, they told me, they said, you need to move to Nashville. And I was making pretty good money down and doing the Texas circuit, you know. And I thought, well, I'll starve if I go to Nashville. But they put that bug in my ear, and I kept thinking about it, and I thought, well, I want to see if I can make it at the next level. And so I just packed up everything and moved to Nashville, and I got a record deal quickly after I got to town on Arista as an artist. And so I got serious about writing songs, trying to learn how to do it right and get better at it. And if you want to get better at songwriting, this is the place, because there's some monster songwriters in this town. And so anyway, I started writing, and the record label had a different idea. It was what direction they wanted me to go, and I was writing all these more, more aggressive kind of songs, and they thought I should be like a love song guy, which is great, but that's not what I write usually. And right. So anyway, I started getting calls from, you mentioned John Michael Montgomery. That was my first single ever, and people like John would start calling me, asking me for my songs, and finally they said, what are you going to do with it? And I said, well, you can have it. I'll write another one, you know. Thank you. And so all of a sudden, John that was a top 10 song, and then right behind that, I had a song on Ty Herndon that was called Hands of a Working Man that I wrote about my dad working at Nibco there in Nacogdoches. And I wrote it about him, and I wrote it with a guy from Luskin. So that was my first top 5 record. It went to number 3, and then of course She Thinks My Tractor's Sexy happened, and my life changed, and that's when I decided that maybe I should reconsider what I'm trying to do, and I quit doing the artist thing and just concentrated 100% on songwriting, and I just happened to have found out I had a knack for it, you know.
So the guy from Lufkin, is that Dee Vincent you're talking about?
Yeah. Don't hold that against me.
I'll try not to. But that had to be. I can only imagine the 12 or so hour drive that you had from Nacogdoches to Nashville. It had to be a heck of a leap of faith when you decided, all right, I'm going to do this.
Yeah, it really was a scary thing. I was living in Dallas at the time, so I drove from Dallas. But yeah, I mean, I had like I said, a pretty successful band, and I told them that I gave them a little notice that I was going to be leaving, and so I sold everything. I sold my PA system. I literally gave my guitar away, everything that I used on stage. Just so I read a story one time where Cortez burned his boats when they got to Americas, so that they had to make it. They had no choice. they burned the boats. So that was kind of my thought process, and I sold everything, and I bought me a little Ford truck, and put a little U-Haul trailer on the back. Didn't know a soul in Nashville, and I just came up here, and just. It was scary. I'll tell you this. There were times, there were more than, I remember one time a buddy of mine who's actually doing great doing videos and stuff now, but between us, we had like $45, and that was it. So, and so it gets scary when it's like that, but I could sing, and there's no money to be made playing live up here. I mean, people are willing to do it for nothing pretty much,
sure,
just to get heard, But I started going around to the little demo recording studios and stuff, and putting, sending them my CD of me singing, and if you need a singer, let me know. And one night I was in a bar, and I heard these two songwriters talking, and they were saying that their demo singer had gotten sick, and that they had the studio book, no demo singer. And I said, well, I'll sing it for you. And they said, are you a singer? And I said, sure. And so they drugged me over the studio. I said, well, why not? We'll give it a whirl. And so I did it, and it turned out that was Aaron Barker. And Aaron Barker, of course, wrote some of George Strait's hits,
sure,
Baby Blue. That was so anyway, Aaron started telling his friends. Next thing you know, my phone started ringing, and I started singing demos. I was doing about 8 or 9 of them a day, and it was enough to stay in town. It kept me working. And from that, when they would pitch the songs to the record labels heard me, and offered me a record deal because of my voice on those demos. So it was funny how it happened, and it happened fairly quickly. I was at 3 months after I'd been in town. A lot of people, this is real rare. Mine happened so fast, but I was singing a demo for Guy Clark in the basement of EMI Publishing Company, and the head of EMI at the time just happened to come down, and he heard me singing, and he said, can you write? And I said, sure. So I played him a couple songs, and they signed me as a writer. So, it was a miracle. It was, it doesn't happen like that usually.
Yeah, you're right. It usually is a very, very slow developing thing if it happens at all.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that certainly that your songwriting style at the time we were talking about, it was more aggressive than what they were looking for. That one of the certainties of music of any genre, the landscape is always going to change. And
sure,
the landscape has certainly changed a lot in just the past couple of years with the bro country movement, the Georgia movement with folks like Red Akins and Hayslip. So does your songwriting adapt, or do you stay pretty much in your comfort zone, or what do you do?
Well, you do have to adapt, but I'm not the greatest at the bro country, even though I've probably been on more dirt roads than most of those guys have. There's most of them are singing about dirt roads they've never been down, but that being said, that's just not. I mean, I write with Ben Hayslip sometime, and if he brings in one of those ideas, certainly I can write it. But I don't know. That doesn't interest me that much, and so I get, I couldn't do a lot of it. But yeah, really, it's not much different. I mean, usually it's more the production than like nowadays they'll use drum loops and things,
Sure,
and
yeah.
and that kind of stuff. But there's some phrasing things. I mean, it's just a natural thing. I know a lot of people, don't like what's going on, but it's just a natural thing. I mean, these days you can go on your iPod and get the latest Eminem, and then also get the new Dustin Lynch that just came out today, which I also have a song on. Thank you very much. But but it's just that little shameless plug there. But anyway, it's just it's evolution. I mean, and nothing stays the same forever. The wheel never goes backwards. It's constantly going forward. But really, it hasn't been that hard. I mean, you just have to. There's some phrasing things that I've had to pick up on, and sometimes I'll be in a room with somebody a lot younger than me, and they kind of speak a language that I don't understand. but I'll kind of say, okay, we'll say it that way, But it's kind of fun, really. It keeps it interesting, and I think a lot of writers, when they get to be my age, they're kind of set in their ways, and they're not willing to change, but so far I've really enjoyed it.
I should have guessed that when the first line is, "It whispered from a tractor on a flat Midwestern plain," that was a song that was
I've had pretty good. I demoed a song yesterday. The first line of the song says something about a tractor. I've had good luck with that. I don't. Well, I grew up on a dairy farm in Nacogdoches. I mean, come on now. I've been on a lot of tractors, but you got to write about what you know, I suppose. But and I know every rhyme there is for tractor.
I bet you do. By the way, we're speaking about the cut from Dustin Lynch's CD, which is called American Prayer, which, as you mentioned, his CD is out as well today. Plus, Jim Collins also has a couple of his songs on an upcoming project that's being done by Reba McEntire. Jim Collins, Nacogdoches, thank you so much for joining us today. His new single, or at least the single that he wrote for Easton Corbin, is Baby Be My Love Song. And you're hearing it here on Kicks 105, the country leader. Jim Collins, Nacogdoches, thank you so much.